Alright, so by now everybody has played the new Delirium chapter, one of the scariest Piggy chapters ever to release, and yet many people were confused on what exactly has happened during this chapter, what happens during the ending, who are these shadowy creatures, and why is Bunny going through all of this. Stay with me today as I'll be explaining the entire story of DECAY Delirium. Everything that happened in this chapter was just a hallucination, a memory, or the best way to describe it, a delirium. That's where the chapter's name comes from. Delirium is a very serious medical condition. It can start suddenly and it's often treatable and temporary, but also extremely dangerous. It makes you confused, disoriented, and it gives you a lack of awareness of your surroundings, making you hallucinate and see things that don't actually exist. And that's what this chapter is all about. We learn that Bunny is not only turning infected, but also that she has delirium, and everything inside this chapter isn't real. Bunny isn't actually there at all the locations from the chapter. She's just hallucinating that she's there. The playground, her house, the medical school, her memories are coming back to haunt her one last time before she turns. And we start off this chapter in a forest, where Bunny only sees black and white. She wanders around a little bit in an old playground before getting jump-scared by a shadow creature. And now we end up in a giant maze playground, full of memories, hallucinations, and oh yeah, of course, more of these guys. Let's actually talk about them a little bit. They're called apparitions and they can be seen throughout most of the chapter. These shadowy creatures come in 3 different versions, a wolf, a mouse, and a horse. When I first found out about it, I immediately thought about the 2 survivors from the first DK chapter. Mari, the one who Bunny shot, mistaken her for an infected, and Henry, Mari's friend who shot Bunny. These 2 match perfectly for the 2 shadow creatures from DK Delirium, and the chapter itself kind of confirms this too. Because in this giant playground, there's a tiny mall area where Bunny goes and sees 3 survivor shadow creatures, Henry, Mari, and a new horse character, confirming that Bunny was aware of these 3 at some point and is now having hallucinations about them. What's also super interesting is that the shadows seen in the chapter are mostly the wolf version, and this one was also the only variant tested before the release of the chapter. There is even an unused model of the wolf shadow, so something tells me that the wolf might have a secret and bigger role that we don't know yet. But we'll talk about that in a future video. Let's focus on the remaining hallucinations that Bunny sees in this playground. There is an arcade area where Bunny goes and has a small hallucination of her childhood, seeing herself along with Gloria, the teacher from the school chapter, playing on the arcades, confirming the strong relationship that these 2 had before the infection started. This was also the reason Bunny cared so much about rescuing the teacher from the school when the infection started. Another hallucination that Bunny sees here is a classroom, with her name on a board right under decorations that are saying happy birthday. What's interesting about this is that on the wall we can find a drawing of Bunny together with Sheepy and Gloria. Not only that, but if we look on the birthday party tables, we will only see 3 plates and 3 cups placed on the table. I think that this room is trying to tell us Bunny's sad backstory, how she prepared a giant birthday party when she was younger, but nobody came, besides her only 2 real friends, Sheepy and Gloria. And this theory can be proven even more, because after Bunny unlocks the wood puzzle door, she falls into a small chase scene where once again, the 3 shadow animals are trying to attack her, and the walls slowly start to shrink, indicating how Bunny was slowly getting emotionally destroyed and couldn't take all the pain anymore. But guess who comes to save her? That's right, her good old friend Sheepy. Once again showing how back then, Sheepy was a true friend of Bunny and how she might have helped Bunny in her most difficult times. But now Bunny arrives to a brand new location never seen before, the Bell residence. This is the house where Bunny, her 2 sisters, Brella and Bonnet, and also her parents lived in. What's interesting about this area is the things that Bunny sees. After Bunny takes the basement key and the entire house turns corrupted and destroyed, we will find 3 drawings around the house. These drawings are showing a horse, a mouse, and a wolf. The same 3 animals from the playground area and also the shadow creatures, which is extremely interesting. These 3 might be the main reason for all of Bunny's past problems, because they keep appearing everywhere in Bunny's mind. Another very interesting detail that I've recently found out is about the black hand monster from the basement chase scene, Scald. Another crazy hallucination inside Bunny's mind. But what's so interesting about this guy is that if we look on his fingernails, they are actually heads of Bunny's family and best friends. I'm talking about Gloria, Shippy, Brella, Bonnet, and Bunny herself, which is a really interesting detail to add on such a monster. Surprisingly though, we don't see the heads of her mother and father, but we do see something else about them. Right after we escape from the basement chase scene, we end up behind the house, and if we go close enough to the backyard, we will see 2 graveyards. Now, this could be anybody. This could even be referencing Bunny's sisters, but I really don't think so. It wouldn't make sense for her sisters to be dead after everything that Bunny went through, and since we've never heard anything about their parents, I strongly believe that these 2 graves are indicating that Bunny's parents have died a long time ago, which would add up to why Bunny felt so emotionally destroyed her entire life. But now, we're going to the next part of the chapter, the Millstone Medical School. This is the place where Bunny, along with many other familiar characters, have studied in order to become doctors and scientists. Inside the medical school, we can find a small poster showing the Aurelia Award recipients. And here, we can find some familiar names, such as Peyton Pandal, who was supposed to be a secondary bot inside the lab chapter, but later on got scrapped. Katie Kirby, who is now a TSP member and can be seen later on in Intercity, working as a nurse yet again, and even Bunny's best friend, Shylock Shippy. But that's not all, because while trying to solve the puzzle in this medical school, we've got a new monster trying to chase and kill us yet again. This time though, a chained bunny that you actually unlock as a playable skin if you beat the Delirium chapter. But looking at it, it's pretty creepy. Her head is stuck in a cage that is supposed to be chained to the roof, and her entire body is locked in chains. But who is she supposed to reference? Well, if you look back at the first DK chapter, we've had another distorted rabbit monster trying to kill us, and looking at her clothes, we came to the conclusion that she was supposed to reference one of Bunny's sisters, Brella Bell. And here we are yet again, with another rabbit monster, but this time covered in purple clothes with yellow flowers on it. And who was wearing the same purple clothes with yellow flowers? That's right, Bunny's youngest sister, Bonnet Bell. The chain is supposed to reference Bonnet, her youngest sister, and that's what we can find inside the medical school. So now let's move on to the final part of the chapter, the final game, and to the ending. Bunny arrives on 4 different floating islands, each with a destroyed room of a hospital, and with a person that Bunny once knew. Shippy, Gloria, Mr. P, and her 2 sisters are on these islands. Bunny now hallucinates the shadowy creatures once again, and she tries to kill them all in order to save her friends. But what really happens is that Shippy, Gloria, and Mr. P all die, and only Bonnet and Brella remain alive. You cannot save all of them if you're playing alone, and Minitune confirmed this too, saying that you are only supposed to defend Bunny's sisters, which is an interesting detail, but that is how the chapter ends, and this is where the ending appears. Bunny wakes up from the ground, still not infected, but 2 infected monsters appear in her way. She sees that her crossbow is missing and gets ready to fight them with her fists, but somebody comes from behind the infected, kills them, and saves Bunny. That person is Shylock Shippy, Bunny's best friend. She gets excited and immediately hugs her, but she also doesn't understand how Shippy is still alive. She remembers that she got attacked in the forest. Bunny knows that Shippy was already infected, and seeing her now as a survivor did not make any sense to her. Bunny once again asks for her sisters, believing that they are somewhere out there, but Shippy tells her that they'll be okay, even without Bunny. She grabs her hand and then start their journey together in the forest, not as survivors, but as infected monsters. Because in the end, we learn that Bunny was infected all this time, and she saw Chippy as a survivor, even though she's also infected and was for a long time. In the end, Bunny won the war against the delirium. She defended her sisters in her memories, but still had no other choice but to turn infected and go together with Chippy on a long path to murder other survivors. This was truly one of the saddest chapters that we've got in a long time. This is how Bunny's story ends. All that remains now is an infected rabbit wandering around Evalia, waiting to maybe one day be found and cured by somebody. And that's all for today's video. Thanks for watching.